I was living out in the streets. I didn't know where to go. I was living at my daughter's house, but I wasn't comfortable there. I was bouncing back to my sister-in-law's house, and I wasn't comfortable there. So when I needed that free time, I would go drive around and go to the parks and just lay around and read my Bible and just pray to God that a door will open. I started going to the recovery group. A year and 8 months clean and sober. I know that feeling about being out in the streets, and it was not a good thing to be out there lost. So I really think that the shelter, opening the shelter for Big Mama's House, is something that's in need for this community, because there's a lot of people right now that are struggling out there in the cold and don't have nowhere to go.
We've all been there. We've all seen, you know, let's say you're driving down the road or you're walking by and you see someone with a sign, that familiar sign, the sign, you know, will work for food, you know, just a sign that you know someone is homeless or they're sleeping on the streets, you know, that's like normal, you know. But we never think for a moment that it would be us. Never. At least I didn't. In September of 2011, my world was completely shattered, completely rocked. Feet was literally taken from under me. My children and I were abandoned. And we went from having shelter, we went from having food ready available, just transportation, just that support. We went from having all of those things to having nothing. So here I am, a mother, 2 children. They're looking up to me because I'm the one that they see. I'm the one that's providing them support. But at this time, now Mom doesn't have that. I was even at the school at the time. I was at school at the time, taking some classes. The feeling that I felt was of hopelessness. I felt, well, obviously abandoned. I felt lost. I felt, how can I get myself and my children out of this pit? What can I do? How can I become whole again, you know, for me and my children? I'm so grateful that there was shelter for me and my children. I was able to get a job. I had the support system to help me watch my children, someone to watch my kids for me. And it put me in a good spot where within a month, I was able to have my own. So we went from having nothing, well, actually having a lot of things, shelter, having it all, then losing it all. But then in the midst of that, the shelter was there to help us. And then after that, we were able to be on our own, and I was able to provide that support for my children again. And, you know, homelessness, we know, is going to be there always. It's going to always be there with us. But there's some things that we can do about it. You know, we can give those that are homeless, we can give them that support that they need. You know, let them know it doesn't end there. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Because I know that feeling as though there is no light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And I feel like Big Mama's House is, it's more than supportive housing. It's a house, it's a home. It's a place where it's so needed, because it's a place where you literally would go from having nothing to having something, to get into your new destiny, your newfound freedom. So it's very important for Big Mama's House to, you know, to come up and just, you know, just shine and be that bright light on homelessness, you know. So that's my take.
I went through a situation of separation, and I began to drink, and I lost my job because of the drinking. I got a DUI, and that led me to being in a place of jail where I lost another job. And I had trouble maintaining jobs and following the requirements of probation. Not because the requirements for probation were hard, but because I was in a mindset where I didn't want to be under anyone's thumb. It was my own fault. But I found myself in jail. My parents came from Oklahoma to help me, and they brought me down to Oklahoma, and that was support to help me get back on my feet. And in that same time, I found God, or I started believing in a higher power. And I went through a year later a fire, and I lost everything. And at that time, I wasn't close to my family again, but God helped me through that. God was my support. And I came back from it. It was no longer a chain. I think anyone has the potential of being homeless. There's been those who were actors that find themselves in the position of homelessness. There's been millionaires who found themselves homeless. I found myself homeless through fire. That was the least of my, the last thing I expected. You know, the thing about being homeless is, when I was dealing with it, I was couch surfing, I was living in my car. I had the support of people, but it wasn't the right support. It was people that wanted me to drink. It was people that caused the homelessness to be deeper. You know, what it is that we need is the right support. Those who help break, not through other means, cause it to go deeper, cause the hole to go deeper. And that's why I believe in Big Mama's house, is because it breaks the chains. That is our target, is to break the chain of crime.
So sometimes you find yourself in this beautiful life, and all of a sudden it goes sideways. That's my story. Living the perfect dream. Beautiful house, beautiful car, 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a wonderful life, or so it seemed. It appeared perfect on the outside, but on the inside it was far from that. I struggled in a marriage. Through those struggles, we found ourselves in a situation of domestic violence. Through that domestic violence, there were attempted strangulation charges. Court stepping in and telling me that as a mom, if I didn't separate from this human being, they would take my kids. So I did the hard work, and I separated, and we got divorced. And there I found myself educated, faith-based, strong, supportive family. Suddenly I was homeless. And these 2 beautiful children that God had created gave me to take care of them. And I couldn't. I failed at every turn. I couldn't provide a stable life. I couldn't provide a roof over our head, food in our tummies. Luckily for me, I had somebody who offered a safe place to live. Through that time period, those several months, my children and I were able to bond. We were able to take a deep breath and move forward in life. I began to focus again on my career goals, on my education. Slowly, one tiny step at a time, I was able to start taking care of us. But the struggle is completely real. For those people who are in my situation, whether it's domestic violence or whatever life circumstance has put them in that situation, the constant need for mental health, the need for counseling, the need for faith, the need for a team of people around them saying, yes, you can get through this. Battered, broken, bruised, terrible self-esteem, the way you feel about yourself when you are homeless, the ache in your soul, and the way it tears at you and you feel like a complete failure. But these people, me, they're not failures. By supporting Pastor Thomas and Big Mama's house, we're able to rebuild people's lives. We're able to give them the faith, the love, the support that they need. Mental health counseling, connective services through other agencies in our community. People are able to rebuild. I'm living proof that you can get it together. You can rebuild your life. You can begin to focus on God. And one day you will find yourself having a place of your own and never facing chronic homelessness again.
It's hard for people to believe, but I was homeless for over 6 years. And during that time, I tried killing myself twice. I know what it is to be hungry. I know what it is to have to go and beg for food and be told no because I didn't look like I was homeless. Basically, homelessness doesn't have a face. I became homeless through some faulty work that was done on my home. I moved here to Pocatello 11 years ago, and I remembered it taking me 6 months to a year just to unpack my boxes because I felt that I was going to have to move again. And it was a very devastating time for me. I often wondered why God let me experience that, but today I understand why. You cannot have the compassion you need sometime till you experience someone else's hardships. By being a pastor here in the community, I get to see more homeless people than what the average person realizes. We have multiple families coming to our church constantly looking for a place to stay. And it breaks my heart because we don't have any place or home for them to go and stay until they are able to get themselves up and be able to take care of themselves. We need supportive housing, and we don't need it later. We need it.
That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now